Hello and welcome to Western Nurseries in Lincoln. I'm here in a greenhouse to take a look at Amaryllis. I just forgot to tell you, my name's Catherine Cooper, and while I'm not normally in the greenhouse, I'm here on this occasion to just tell you a little bit more about Amaryllis because the holiday season is approaching, and one reason you know that is we have a wonderful selection of Amaryllis bulbs here for the holidays. So the Amaryllis that we have for sale here at the moment are of two types: Northern Hemisphere grown, which are these larger ones here, and the smaller ones come from the Southern Hemisphere, usually Peru, and they are not only younger bulbs, but will also be coming into bloom a little bit quicker. That is one of the main differences in their origins, is that the Southern Hemisphere grown bulbs, which is where they originated in Central South America, in countries like Peru and they do come into bloom at this time of year, which is going into their summer, obviously. But if you take a look here, this particular variety is a really early bloomer, and you would have it in bloom by Thanksgiving if that was what you wanted. On the other hand, if you have one of the larger Dutch-grown ones like this, they are processed and grown in such a way that it takes a little longer for them to come out of dormancy, about 10 to 12 weeks from planting until flowering, unless you are planting them around about Christmas time, and it will be a lot quicker. But they are going to bloom nearer to the Christmas holidays and into the dead of winter when we haven't got much going for us. So they are wonderful in that regard. I just want to show you and talk a little bit about how they are planted and grown. If we take a look here, we can see that we do have one planted, and they like to be in snug quarters. They don't want a huge pot. You just need to have about an inch, 3/4 to an inch, depending on the size of the bulb, around the edge of it. So they do not need a large container. They can be grown just in stones, but if you wish to keep them long term, once they finish flowering, you would have to transfer them into some potting mix and grow. Or, just like these here, they could be planted in potting mix, and these are actually dressed with some moss for decorative effect. So when you get your bulb, you're going to plant it in whatever medium you choose, but you're going to plant it to about leaving the top third exposed. And when you do plant, you're going to water it the once. Ideally, you can choose a container with drainage holes in it. I know that isn't always possible, and I know that some of them here do not have drainage holes. You can go that route if you wish. You just have to be very vigilant with how much water you give them. They are bulbs, and too much water with the roots sitting in it will cause the bulb to rot. So when you first plant your Amaryllis bulb, as I said, you're going to sink it about 2/3 into your potting medium or stones, water, and then wait until the soil is dry again by about an inch to inch and a half down before you water again. And then when it starts to grow, you need somewhere with bright indirect light to help it grow. It also needs a temperature of around about 70, give or take, being ideal warmth for it. And after about, in the case of these, about 10 weeks or so, you will have the flower stalk ready to bloom. The bigger the bulbs, the more flower stalks you might get. So these ones, it's not unusual to see 2 flower stalks come, and then the leaves. So if you're looking to buy an Amaryllis bulb, the first thing you want to know is that it feels firm to the touch. Just as you wouldn't buy soft and squishy onions, it's the same with your Amaryllis bulb, that it shows that it's healthy and in good shape. Depending on how much they've started to grow, you might be able to discern how many flower spikes you're going to see. If I can just take a look. If I take this little one here, so this little one I can see has a flower spike there and a flower spike there. They're slightly fatter than the leaves, which are coming up in the middle here. So this one will have 2 flower stalks. It's a little too early to tell with this one. I can just see probably what is the tip of one of its leaves, but the flower spikes are going to emerge a little nearer the edges there. So big bulbs like this nearly always have at least 2 flower stalks. They are something that if you take care of them year after year, they can have a lifespan of about 20 years. So they're not disposable. They are something that with minimal care, you can keep going year after year. So once the flowers are finished, cut them off and allow the flower stem to die away and remove once it's completely dead. In the meantime, it will be sending up its leaves. Here's some example of leaves. So they're green strappy leaves. It will send up its leaves, and that's when you need to just keep watering it. And on a monthly basis, give it a dilute dose of houseplant fertilizer to help it replenish the nutrients that it's used to actually flower. Come the spring here in New England, when the temperatures are above freezing overnight and that, you can acclimatize it and put it outside, because that way it will be able to photosynthesize more, it will create more energy to store in the bulb for next year's blooming. And you would continue to do that until round about September time. And that's usually the time, if you want to try and bring it back into bloom for Christmas, that you have to start planning on making it go dormant. If you're not worried about forcing it into bloom at Christmas and want to allow it a more natural bloom time, which would be spring, then you can wait longer until the bulb actually dies down outside. I've only just brought mine inside. I'm not going to see any flowers from it at Christmas. It'll be about March before I see anything. But what you would start to do in September is stop watering. If the weather is cold enough, that will also encourage the foliage to quickly die back. Just like any other bulb that you would grow outside, the foliage ultimately dies. The bulb wants to go into a period of dormancy to rest before it sends up another flower spike. Once it's died back, keep it somewhere cool and dark, around about 50 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe a little cooler, and leave it that way for about 6 weeks so it can rest. And then once you see it start to shoot again, you repeat the process again. You pot it up with some fresh soil, you give it some water, and with luck you should have another beautiful plant again at some point, whether for the holidays or like me, sometime in March, which is also a good time to have something flowering indoors. The smaller ones are obviously self-supporting. They are short-stemmed and that, but these larger Amaryllis can grow stems about this tall, and if we're not able to give them quite enough bright light, they can start to lean and fall over. So sometimes it's necessary to stake them, or our creative greenhouse team here has found some very interesting ways to provide support for the flower stems that are going to come up with these twigs here. So that is a very, very brief introduction to Amaryllis and the fact that we have 2 different types here, Northern Hemisphere grown, and in this case, the smaller Southern Hemisphere ones that come into bloom quicker. The nice thing about the little ones here is that you can group them. You know, they're small enough that you can have a container that doesn't have to just have one in them. You know, plant them in groups of 3 or 5, and it makes for a really attractive feature on the tabletop. So from Western Nurseries here, this is Catherine Cooper in Lincoln with one that just couldn't wait for the holidays. So come along and see us. We've got a wonderful selection here of a variety of holiday colours. And if you have any questions about us, do ask our knowledgeable staff. So I'm signing off. If you liked our video, please subscribe to our channel. We've plenty more of informational and interesting videos for you. And I will see you another time.